Becoming a parent is exciting, but it's so easy to fall in some common traps. And today I'm breaking down the 5 biggest mistakes that I see new parents make. So let's set you up for success. Mistake number 1, over worrying about every little sound that your baby makes. Babies are making noises, whether they are sleeping, crying, pooping, whatever they're doing, there's always some kind of noise. It can be grunts or hiccups or even sneezes. So know what is typical and what is not. You will start knowing the difference between a hunger cry, being overtired, or just making noises in their sleep. If you are unsure, you can always consult with your pediatrician or your doctor, but also learn to trust your gut and your instincts. If the baby's crying or the sounds sound abnormal and the baby doesn't look comfortable, they're either crying in a funny way or they look like they're not breathing well, then you know it's time to act. If they seem comfortable, they're not breathing fast or shallow, or you can see that they're straining to breathe, then you know that they're not in distress. Which brings me to the second point, misreading hunger cues. The very first thing, and you will see this when your baby is born, if a baby cries, everybody assumes the baby is hungry. You might do that as well. But for real, the baby goes, weh, and whoever is in the room with you will make a comment, oh, the baby is probably hungry. Oh, is it feeding time? Or something like that. You might also go immediately to feeding because that would be the obvious thing. My baby's crying, he or she must be hungry. But there are different reasons for babies to cry. If you're going to keep feeding the baby, it might lead to more cries and frustration because they're not actually hungry, they're just getting over full, and every time they cry because they're now uncomfortable, now you keep feeding them. So it's a vicious cycle sometimes. So what can you do? You can learn your baby's hunger cues. There are general signs that you can follow, but every baby will obviously have a little tweak or twist to this hunger cue. So it usually starts in phases when a baby wakes up to full-blown crying. Crying is usually a late sign of hunger. So if you can catch the early hunger cues, you are better off. I am making a video on the hunger cues for babies. If the link is here, you can watch it. If a baby is unsettled and you don't know whether it is a feeding cue or not, you can try by just soothing the baby. Try a pacifier. Try a dummy. Will the baby take a tummy? Will they settle with it? No. You can pick the baby up, let the baby lie with you. Will they settle? Sometimes all they want is just close contact with you. That will make them settle and go back to sleep. If they stay fussy, even if you tried a dummy or you tried to hold the baby or you tried swaying back and forth, the nappy is dry, it's not wet or dirty, because remember that can also make them cry, then you can start thinking perhaps they're hungry and look for the typical hunger cues. Mistake number 3, ignoring self-care. Yes, I'm talking to you, I'm not talking about the baby. It is so common for new parents to focus 100% on the new baby, and you kind of can't help it because they kind of demand it. A common misconception out there is that maternity leave is a holiday, and the people who don't have kids might think that. The people who do have kids know that this is very far from the truth. Newborns need your attention almost 24/7, and you can easily get absorbed into everything, which means you neglect your self-care. If you do look after yourself, it's not being selfish and abandoning your baby. It's making sure that you are pouring from a cup that is not empty. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It can be something small. Take 15 minutes out of your day to have a warm shower. When they say sleep when the baby sleeps, yes, we all laugh at that, but sometimes it's literally the best thing you can do. Sleep when your baby sleeps and ignore the dirty kitchen, ignore the laundry. Just get that 15 minutes. That might be all the self-care that you need on that day, to just get 15 minutes of close eye. If you can't do that, take 5 minutes 3 times a day. Have a cup of tea. If you absolutely have to clean the kitchen, take 5 minutes to drink your tea when the baby naps, and then you start with the kitchen. But take care of yourself, reconnect with yourself. You're going to get lost in all the baby stuff, and if it goes on for too long, it is a lot harder to reconnect with yourself and not feel like you completely lost your identity. Mistake number 4, trying to stick to a strict routine too early on. Yes, we all love the routine, and everybody says, get the baby on a routine. But what they neglect to say is later on. A newborn doesn't have a routine. If your baby is coming out of the NICU, they're often in a 3-hourly routine when they do nappy changes, feeding, and the baby is kind of getting used to that when you bring the baby home. It doesn't necessarily last, but most babies will fall into a routine of waking up when they're hungry and wanting food now, whether it is 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or 2 minutes after the last time they were fed. So trying to force a schedule on the newborn is just going to cause you and the baby's stress and frustration, because if you stick to, say, 3 hours and they're hungry before then, they're just going to keep getting more frustrated if you don't feed them. If you stick to a routine of, say, every 2 hours and you want to force feed them when they're not necessarily hungry, they're also going to get fussy. Instead of sticking to a rigid routine which normally settles around 3 to 4 months, just focus on what they need in that moment and just go with the flow until you figure out your baby. You both need time to figure out each other. They're new to this world, so they're also trying to figure out their environment. As they get bigger, you can gradually introduce more structure, and you can start with small things with a routine. For instance, bath time, the same time every day. Sometimes you have to let go of it and you need to be a bit more flexible because something is happening and you just can't bath a baby right now. But bringing routine into small things might actually help you get through a day when you can just function on autopilot. This is bath time, this is bedtime, this is time we read stories, this is feeding time, and slowly your baby will get into a routine. But remember to always be a little bit flexible. Mistake number 5, not asking for help. And there I am very guilty, and there's many people out there who feel that they need to do this alone. And people might actually tell them, you wanted kids, now why are you asking me for help? You wanted them, now you raise them. Yes, but it still takes a lot of support and it takes a community to raise a child. So don't let your ego get in the way if you are really struggling. If you are on top of things, keep going. But if you really struggle, don't be hesitant to actually ask someone, can you help me? Can you lend a hand? Can you come over? Can you bring a meal? Can you bring a warm cup of coffee or tea? I need something. Or can you just bring yourself for some company? I am in desperate need of some adult conversation. If you isolate everybody and you say no thank you, you might end up feeling very lonely and overwhelmed, because there are just days where you need an extra hand, and if your partner is there, get them to help you. If they're not around, reach out to family, friends. There are always some support groups, moms or parents around you that you can join to make sure that you have people to reach out to, that you're not doing this all alone and feeling like you're going insane because it's just day in and day out. It's the same thing and you just don't feel like you're ever getting in control and on top of it. Remember that parenthood is a journey and it's full of learning curves. There is no textbook out there to know how to do this. But by being aware of these common mistakes, you're already one step ahead. And as a final thought, perfection is not the goal. Patience and confidence is. So if this video helped you, please hit the like button so that it can be shown to more moms and we can help more moms out there to avoid making these mistakes. And if you have any tips to add, please drop them in the comments below and let's help each other out.